Ultimate Spider-Man was a show that ran on Disney XD from April 1st, 2012 to January 7th, 2017. With a new Spider-Man show on the way from Marvel and Disney, going along with the MCU's introduction of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I've decided to conduct somewhat of a post-mortem / review on the show as a whole. To make some things clear before I start my ramble. 1. Yes, Spectacular Spider-Man is my favorite Spider-Man show, but I don't blame Ultimate Spider-Man for its cancellation. The real villains there were Sony and Disney. 2. I did not watch every single episode of this series. However, I have seen the first couple episodes of Season 1, scattered episodes throughout Seasons 1, 2, and 3, including the whole Spider-Verse arc, and of course the freaking Jesse crossover, and the majority of Season 4. And 3. The show gets better as it goes along, or at least it has more arcs. It's not easy to just catch a random episode as it goes on and understand it perfectly well. Knowing where I'm coming from, and with a new adjectiveless Spider-Man cartoon coming out soon as I'm making this video, where did the show go wrong? I mean, it's not the worst cartoon I've ever seen, or even the worst interpretation of Spider-Man I've seen outside the comics. Let's start with a few basics about this show. Ultimate Spider-Man lasted 4 seasons and had Batman the Animated Series writer Paul Dini and Ultimate Spider-Man, the comics Ultimate Spider-Man anyway, / big-time Marvel writer Brian Michael Bendis behind the scenes as writers for the show, as well as the group known as Man of Action. This should have been a good combination. However, most episodes were only met to mixed reviews. Whether or not you like or even heard of Marvel's Ultimate Universe doesn't really matter going into this cartoon. The name more or less comes from Peter trying to become the Ultimate Spider-Man, and a leader / mentor to a revolving cast of younger heroes. In fact, in the first Spider-Verse arc, this Peter Parker does travel to what seems to be Bendis' Ultimate Universe, where he meets Miles Morales' Spider-Man, and learns that that version of him is dead, like in the comics. See, the first inherent problem with the show is its identity in relation to the Marvel Universe as a whole. Ultimate Spider-Man exists uniquely in its own canon in a way that the other cartoons do not, and a lot of that probably has to do with what other media was coming out during and around its time of production. It's clearly inspired by the Ultimate Universe, but it doesn't commit to that idea. It uses a lot of recent main universe continuity, aka 616 Spider-Man comic storylines and characters, but it doesn't even seem to have any interest in its canon. And it's trying to stay relevant to the MCU with all its crossovers and team-ups, especially with a focus on S.H.I.E.L.D. and the greatness of the Avengers, but it was never really meant to be involved in that universe outside promoting it. And that promotion element seems to be what turned a lot of people, especially previous Spider-Man fans, off. Many of the episodes, especially early in, seem to focus on Peter teaming up and interacting with other characters, but they don't really go anywhere outside of beating up a bad guy. Peter as himself or Spider-Man doesn't always feel like the focus of the show, especially with such a large cast fighting for screen time. As a result, we're told these characters are developing, but we don't really see it. It focuses on action and jokes rather than depth or character development, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it makes the few moments of actual drama seem unearned and manufactured. This leads into a bigger problem the show has, the essence of the characters. While I'm not qualified to speak on the merits of the show's interpretations of characters like White Tiger or Iron Fist, when it comes to the characters that originated from the Spider-Man mythos, something seems to be missing. Sure, Norman Osborn's still a dick and Doc Ock's still a pompous asshole, but most lower-level villains and even some major ones often seem very surface level or like they should be different characters entirely. For example, similar to the Ultimate Universe from the comics, the Venom symbiote isn't an alien but a substance manufactured in a lab. There is no Eddie Brock in this show's continuity, so whatever, sure. Its first host is Flash Thompson, which I'm not sure if that was supposed to be foreshadowing or not, considering he later becomes Agent Venom, and from there it goes from host to host till eventually settling on Harry Osborn in a later episode trying to kill Spider-Man just 'cause. It's something about being a superior Spider-Man, blah blah blah. What makes Venom such a great villain, keyword villain here, I'm not talking about Flash, is the personal vendetta against Peter, knowing just how to get under his skin. No pun intended. And as a byproduct of that, the extra and pettiness of it all, because Eddie was both of those things to an extreme, and it was great. They start to build a personal connection in with having Harry use it, but ultimately, by the time he goes full villain, the symbiote's in control as the evil goon. Harry's just along for the ride. Their relationship dynamic, between Peter and Harry that is, isn't really affected by this afterwards either. They still stay friends throughout the series, and by the end of it, both Norman and Harry are good guys. Another character they kind of screw over is Ben Reilly, who I'll admit I don't know everything about because Clone Saga. But when he was a prevalent character in the show's 4th season, he's not Ben Reilly, he's Kane, a different clone of Peter's in the comics. From his costume to his personality, none of it's Ben. If I had to guess, the only reason they gave him that name was probably because it had more brand/name recognition than Kane did. And I don't have a problem with changing a character's origin around, as long as it's done well. But once you change them around so much that they're not recognizable and presented as still the same character, it feels like you're cheating them in some way. To be clear, I'm not talking about this in a costume aesthetic sense, I'm talking about their personality. Costumes, while important, aren't what I'm watching a show for. But that being said, I thought most of the costume designs were pretty good for the most part, with the exceptions of Rhino and Dr. Octopus, at least until the last couple episodes. I'm keeping this part short. The animation's okay. I don't really care for the chibi, cutaway gag portions, though they do get less frequent as the series continues. But overall, it's just fine. A lot of people can't stand these cutaways and fourth wall breaks, and I agree it's a bit out of character for Spider-Man, but I think what they're going for is just a more vivid version of Peter's style of narration from the comics. The style itself is more or less the same as the other Marvel shows from around that time, and I don't think it has a lot of interesting shots or camera angles, but it's not terrible, just kind of standard superhero stuff. Most of the voice acting is fine, not really great or terrible, but fine. The show is usually lighthearted, so most of the voice actors don't get to show off their serious sides outside villain or half-hearted monologues. I like Drake Bell well enough as a person. He's not my favorite Spider-Man voice, and I do agree with others who say his range is limited. He does sound relatively young, not high school young, but not like he's middle-aged either. And when Spidey has serious moments, he tends to yell to signify negative emotions, but for all I know, maybe he's just not given good direction. Nothing else really to say here. I don't think the animation or the voice acting is really a make or break factor for the show. If you enjoy the characters or the plot, you'll keep watching this. And if you don't, you won't. Overall, Ultimate Spider-Man was its own worst enemy. Unless you went into the show with no expectations or didn't care about the show following a previous canon, you were probably disappointed, especially if you were a fan of Spectacular Spider-Man. The animation and voice acting is decent, not terrible, but nothing special either, and the characters feel underdeveloped if they're even recognizable as their former selves. However, the show did introduce a lot of characters to Spider-Man's circle of allies and enemies, and I could see it helping a lot of new fans get into the larger Marvel universe and Spider-Man and Company's place in it. So goodbye, Ultimate Spider-Man. You will probably not be dearly missed.